Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. I am Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Johnny Sue is on the ones and twos. And in the studio this time, not coming to us from San Clemente, Oceanside area, he's a dad, a husband, a paramedic for 20 years, one of my favorite guys. I introduce him like it's Hulk Hogan. We have Ruben Major. Running for Oceanside Major. Oceanside Mayor. Major.
So ridiculous.
We just moved the Y.
It's easy to
and
get
put the J
mixed
in.
up.
How you doing, Ruben?
Pretty good. How's it going?
Awesome, man. What's going on? What's going on with your campaign? Tell us. Come on.
Oh, it's pretty exciting. It looks like we are the front runner here, at least on our side, for the Democratic Party endorsement.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Things are going well. We seem to be lining up a lot of support, and the people are just kind of fed up with what's going on in town right now. The big issues are homelessness. And haven't been homeless before myself as a kid. It's a big issue for me. Working as a medic, I've also kind of been in there helping the homeless out, and I think we have some ideas that are really going to change the way that things are going right now, and put them into a positive direction for our city.
Yeah.
It's a big issue across the county, across the state.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's talking about it, rightfully so.
Yeah.
And last time you ran against the infamous Alex Padilla, who is still our Secretary of State, and a lot of people are still worried about that. But can you tell us maybe a little bit of what you learned from that race?
I would say, it takes an incredible amount of money to win a statewide race. I think that's probably the biggest problem right now that we're facing is that, if we want real representation in our government, we're going to have to figure out a way to get just normal, regular people to be able to run for office.
Yeah.
Career politicians kind of have it in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true not just, statewide, but it's also true at the local level, which is really unfortunate. So I think we could do a lot more, as far as, maybe public financing of some of these campaigns or spending limits, term limits, all that stuff is really important. But that race in particular, I would say election integrity, man, if you don't have the right to vote, or your vote isn't being counted properly, or you got problems, you don't have a democracy.
Yeah.
So that was very important to me, and that's why I ran that race.
We're election integrity people. We it's top of the list for us. But how screwed up was it in 2016? Because if you just do the basic math, you'll see that there was almost the same amount of votes in the primary as 2016 as there was in 2008, which is almost impossible, being that we had a record amount of signups, of registrations, almost 700,000 new signups 6 weeks before the primary in California, all signing up to vote for Bernie Sanders. How screwed up were things last time, Ruben?
I would say, the thing that's most concerning to me is right now, and the thing that we can actually point to and have evidence that there's a problem are the voter registration issues. And so what I mean when I say that is that, people will be registered to vote. They'll go in to, vote, and then they'll be told that they aren't on the rolls, or they have, they've been kicked off somehow, and then they have to vote a provisional ballot, or maybe the people that are working the polls don't really know the exact process.
Yeah, like last time.
That does happen, unfortunately. I mean, we definitely need some more education. A lot of them are really hard-working people, though. They're volunteering. They're trying to do what's right for the community. But I think the biggest thing that we have to watch out for, not just here in California, not just in Oceanside, but like all over the country right now, is voter registration issues. People need to be checking their voter registration file on a frequent basis, because we are watching people just getting thrown off for, no reason. I mean, there was just an article that just came out, talked about, millions of people are getting thrown off the roll. So this is a legitimate concern.
And weren't they calling you a conspiracy theorist when you were telling people 8 months ago, fam, that your registration, we have an issue? You had Greg Pallas in the studio. We talked about these things.
He calls them placebo ballots, by the way.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what are the ways you were telling us that you can screw with your registration? So.
Well, the biggest thing is that, everybody knows that their personal data is out there now. We've had a lot of breaches, the Equifax, some of the credit reporting agencies, and then, some of these other big companies that hold a lot of our data. And if they have enough information, they can use that data. Anybody can use that data, really, to make a change to your voter registration. And so that's really concerning, and that's something that we need to figure out. How are we going to keep this process secure at the same time as maintaining a proper election? Let people get out there and vote.
Yeah.
So the registrar office and the state have been selling us this new system of voting. They made it seem like it's going to be much easier. These machines are easy to use and not confusing. They're electronic machines, but then they print out a paper ballot that you put into a slot. There are more days open for you to vote. You can vote at any of these voting centers. But the big reason for selling the system was that it would take care of the registration issues. It was open source. However, it just seems that that this is a fairy tale because they said that you can change your registration anytime. But if you vote after the 17th, you're still subject to a provisional ballot. And also you have to, if you are, for instance, a vote by mail independent, no party preference voter, you must request a Democratic crossover ballot by mail. So isn't this kind of sort of like a bait and switch?
I think, one of the things that we campaigned on was that if you were eligible to vote for a candidate, that they should actually show up on your ballot. And it would be that simple.
Right.
And I think that, that's a change that the Secretary of State could make right now. That's not something that requires a new law. It's something that one person is in control of, one office. That's it.
So that would mean doing away with provisional ballots is what you're saying?
No, but what I'm talking about is the crossover ballot issue that you're discussing right now.
Okay,
so
got it.
Basically, if I was eligible to vote for somebody, they could just show up on my ballot. Well, that would be great because then I don't have to worry about requesting a ballot. The poll workers, you don't have to worry about trying to figure out well, this person said that they were a registered Democrat, and it shows that they're in PP and they can't vote for this person. So what do we do? It just eliminates a lot of the confusion. And it's unfortunate that hasn't been changed or addressed. It's a very simple problem to fix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the open source versus closed source kind of mentality and stuff? A lot of people don't know that. We went to a meeting months ago, and it's our questions were a lot different than everybody else. They were asking kind of those basic questions, but when we said open source, they were kind of like looking at us. Can you kind of explain the difference between, because Alex Padilla claimed it was an open source system. Yes. He had to retract that, and just recently I heard at a meeting, which there was no recording devices allowed, that he still said, okay, we don't have an open source system, unfortunately. There's still proprietary software in those machines. Can you give a little insight on that stuff?
Yeah, so basically right now, your election system's owned by corporations.
Yeah.
So the state does not necessarily have a right to go in there and take a look at that code, and it's not public code. So,
That's
we
bad.
could do it for auditing purposes, and there's, some obscure rules and things like that. But I mean, just largely like the fact that we don't own our own elections is the biggest problem to me.
Yeah.
Like just the concept that this is not our system. It's some big giant company's system.
Yeah.
That's problematic to me.
Yeah. Well, I trust Microsoft. You don't? Sorry.
Well, I would say it could be, anybody.
Yeah.
I want it to be owned by the public. Why does a big company get to decide, when they have a problem or not? Like, we can go in there for cause, right? And say, oh, but how do we know that there's cause if we can't look?
Yeah.
So let's just say that what exactly could go wrong this time around, though, when they're telling us, oh, you have more time to vote. You can vote after February 3rd. You have more time to register and switch your registration. It's all good, you guys. You have different, you can vote. You can live in Glendale and vote in Pasadena. I mean, you can do all these things in LA County, because you're not in LA County, but I'm just saying in LA County, they're saying it's just going to be such a breeze. So how could this go wrong?
Well, fortunately, so in San Diego County, we haven't gone there quite yet. But the thing is in LA County, you guys are in a situation where, you have these vote centers, and, while it can make voting more convenient, there are some concerns that go along with it. And My big concerns were, how are people going to get to the polls? There's some rule in there that talks about, you could be within a certain amount of time to get from one polling place to the next. And it's calculated on the basis of drive time. It's not calculated off of walking time. So if you don't have a vehicle, or let's say you're in heavy traffic, it's going to be really hard for you to get to the polls. So this has the effect of marginalizing, disenfranchising marginalized populations, which is a huge concern. I know they've been talking about this and trying to work that out. The other thing is auditing can become a problem. So like if I want to go back and see, what the precincts are doing, the precincts aren't necessarily reporting like they used to be, like all the information comes in from the precincts. Right. And then, so now it's just a kind of all centralized. And since all that information is centralized in one particular location, it's questionable as to whether or not it's going to be as reliable.
Yeah.
And that, to me, like centralizing that, it's centralizing our democracy. And I think I have a problem with people. I mean, people want to have a polling place in their garage. Their neighbors, want to partake in democracy. This is something that is a community event. It is not something that should just be ran entirely by the state, but by the people. Yeah. So again, we are where we are right now, and we have to make the best of it. But what's that going to end up being? Like, what kinds of issues are we going to come up with? Yeah. I don't know.
It seems like the elites have more opportunities to murky the waters this way, that we can't find out what's going on in an audit. Is that just for LA? What are your concerns with San Diego County, being that you live there and down in that district? Are they the same, or are they a little bit different than LA?
Well, I think, I spoke with the registrar there. I know there were some, obviously there were some lawsuits, and they had some problems at one point, and I feel like they've cleaned it up a little bit, and things are a little bit better. But I don't think the magnitude of issues, are there, but I would say like they are here. But I would still say that we have problems with voter registration. And that, again, is the one that's the most provable.
Right.
And so that's what I've been trying to get people to focus on is, check your voter registration. We had somebody in our campaign, they're registered as a Democrat, and then, they turn out to be, NPP. And it's like they didn't change their voter registration or anything. We did an analysis of LA County's voter registration files over, a 3-month period. And it was interesting because we would find people that were newly registered, 18 years old, didn't move, anything like that. And, they're taken off the rolls. And it's like, for what reason are these people being removed? And if you we took it and put it up against a map.
Yeah.
Just so that we could see, where the areas were at. And what we found is that they were in more in communities that were more marginalized. So, people were of lower socioeconomic status. So Crenshaw, for example, if you were on the west side of Crenshaw, you had a greater chance of staying on the rolls. But if you were on the east side of Crenshaw, then it was, it was going to be a lot more likely that you were going to be taken off.
Yeah.
And I know it could be boring to people, to talk about this stuff, but this is where it's at because there's evidence here. And if we follow this evidence, we can actually make a case, that there's a problem.
Yeah. I think it's more diabolical, too. I think it's even because you got people like Mickey Const, who was taken off in all these different areas. And even when it comes to L.A., I think they're also not just looking, at the socioeconomics of it. They're also looking at the party lines, the progressives. If they can, if the Democratic leaders of these clubs can identify you as a Bernie supporter, they could just change your shit or have it changed. And I think that is more important to them, too, as well, is to make it a political divide.
And let me bring up something too before we move on, is right now the Democratic establishment has no clear leader. They don't have a clear candidate. The progressives have a clear candidate in Bernie Sanders. But in order to rig an election, they don't necessarily have to rig it for anybody. They just have to not count your vote.
Yeah.
And that
suppress a vote.
Yes, exactly. That in turn leads to the Democratic establishment keeping a hold of the system, especially in a place like California that is, proportionally given delegates.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I would say kind of just going back to the whole being taken off the rolls issue. So from what we noticed was you would see the most progressive voters being taken off, like say in March, and then and then just closer to like November, you'd see more Democrats getting taken off the rolls too. So I'm saying, like, there's a possibility that it could just be. I mean, we don't know why. We have no idea why this is happening. We just know it's happening.
Oh, I know why it's happening.
Well, we can but that's the thing. It's like so hard to prove something at a basis of a normal journalistic basis where you have to look at the source and you have to look at everything when the people in power own the system and own the system of information. So you're never going to find like that legitimate proof. But I think after 2016, we should be a little bit better armored to take on the situation. And it feels like we're still kind of like not.
We definitely need the repetitive messaging that's being brought out there. I agree with the machine related issues, and the open source is something that we definitely need, and that's extremely important. It's what we have, though, like I said, is that we do have the smoking gun in the voter registration. And I hate to keep beating, the horse, but I'm just saying, like, it's so important.
Somebody needs to. So, and
that's across, like, that's for anybody, whether you're a conservative or whether you're a liberal or whatever. Like, we all want our votes to count.
Yeah. It's so important, election integrity. We talk about it. You can't get Medicare for all, Green New Deal until we have election integrity, because the people who represent our goals and our wants and our needs will not be in office because they'll be cheated and stuff. And I'm so sorry. Fiorella's got a question right now. I know we could talk about this stuff all day. We brought you to talk about your campagn. I apologize.
I
love talking this stuff. I'm a junkie on this stuff. So when I get you here, it's like nom 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 nom.
I appreciate that.
So. Knowing what we know about you, who are your opponents? And why should people choose you over them? And how critical is it to do that this time around?
Well, one of the things that I was told by a really smart campaign consultant was to never name your opponent. So I'll just kind of tell you that I'm running against another Democrat.
Gotcha.
That's on the city council right now. And I'm running against I think it's 3 Republicans now. One of them's on the city council. One of them served for was in the assembly. And right now it looks like, like I said, that in our city, the biggest concern is that we have career politicians that have been in there for a really long time. These people, I think, have about 70 years being on the council. Then we have some, if you add them all up together, and then if you add the appointments, we also have appointments, by the way, which are non-elected people that are on the council, which is terrible because now the people didn't get a choice as to who they wanted to vote for. And finally they did pass some term limits. I don't know that it goes far enough. I think they said 3 terms, and I think it should be two and you're out. Just go do something else. It's 4 years.
So they're allowed 12 years right now. You think 8 is appropriate?
I think 8 is just fine. Try it once, get a redo, and then you're done. I mean, I just go do something else, get a job. Like, you know what I mean? I think, if you want to continue into politics, that's fine. Maybe go do something else.
Run for a different office.
Yeah. But I mean, at this point, our city functions as a thoroughfare for the very rich to get everything that they want, and for the people to basically be sold out. We just had a development issue that was really hot topic. About 70-80% of the people disagreed with it. I did my own polling. We called thousands of people, on the issue, and nobody wanted it, and yet our city council passed it. Why did they pass it? If you go back and look at polling, so now we have a proposition, basically a ballot initiative that's coming out, that's going to address that particular issue.
Yeah, I don't know about term limits for that, Ruben. I would like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Why can't they stay forever? What's wrong with that?
And Adam Schiff.
Adam Schiff, another one. Let him just stay forever. Well, I was joking. I don't want them. I want them gone. So, yeah. No, I would say, just across the board, I think it's good to have term limits, just because, and some people will say, well, you need politicians that are have been there, more experienced, and so on and so forth. But I think our Supreme Court justices should have term limits. I think everybody should have term limits. What are your 3 biggest issues, though? Day one, you get in. What are the 3 things?
Aside from homelessness, because that's obviously what...
homelessness and election integrity. What else you got?
Well, so that's an interesting one. Let me just tell you that there's actually a solution for that. So right now we had a Supreme Court case. It was Martin versus Boise. The Supreme Court basically affirmed a lower court decision, and that says that if you're homeless, you get to sleep in public as long as there's not enough sheltering for you. And in our city and many cities, there's not enough sheltering for people, and so they get to live in public. So if you're homeless, you get to live on the riverbed or in the riverbed. You get to live at City Hall. You can live on the streets. And so what we need to do is make sure that they have enough beds so that we can clean the streets up and make things safer for people. And that's a legitimate concern, I think. And just generally in our areas, a little bit more conservative. So it's going to require that particular messaging for that issue, and that's what people want.
Yeah. How do you stress your message, which is majorly progressive, when there are so many Republicans in your district?
It's so funny because it's a citywide race, so there's a lot of things that really aren't Republican or Democrat. They're just people issues. Like I can go out there and talk to so many people, and we pretty much have generally the same idea on things. Just a person on the street that I talk to has like the same, it's almost like we have the same kind of wavelength going on. And then, you get into the council meetings, and then it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? There's rivalries, families that have been fighting with each other for 20, 30 years. Like, people are mad because, my great grandfather this, and it's like, man, it's so good to be able to come in and not have to worry about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And just talk issues, talk data, talk, solutions, and actually make something happen. That's what I want to do. Yeah. Like, I want to actually make something different happen.
So you want to be the Tyrion Lannister of Oceanside, right? Go in there and solve everybody's problems and talk whatnot.
Did you watch Game
Wouldn't
of
it be
Thrones?
nice?
Yeah.
I wish we could.
I think that's important too as well, because a lot when it comes on the local level, it doesn't get to be Republican and Democrats. It's like, how do we solve this issue that we all have in common? That we can really work on.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, so now we have council members that are fighting with each other. We had one of the council members was a Democrat, ran against another Democrat, took him out of his seat. So now it's like we have more of the other party in there, and so it's just it's kind of, it's interesting how that's happened.
Yeah. How come you didn't run for a city council seat? Because a lot of people said last time, they said, Ruben Major's a great candidate, but to go right after Alex Padilla, that was a big jump. Aren't you kind of doing the same thing in Oceanside by going for the mayor rather than going for a city council seat? Do you think you have enough juice to win the mayor's seat?
I think we're actually doing really well for the mayor's seat. Actually, we have a lot of support. We've got, like I said, our delegate support and everything else. But I'll say about the statewide race, that was more of an issue-based campaign than anything else. Right. I mean, that was just something that we had to get the word out about that's happening in our system right now. Like our files, our voter file issues, the way that data is kept. Like I can tell you all the little specifics about how that works. Probably would be pretty boring, but we can basically go over every little detail. And I think that those details actually matter because those make an impact on how things function. Yeah. And I tried to get out there and just let people know, hey, this is what's happening with your system, education. And you know what? I feel like we made a hell of a difference because now people are actually talking about this stuff. Yeah. I'll tell you, when I was talking about it, a couple of years ago, people were it was a little sketchy, People were like, "Oh, I can't believe you're saying that,"
Yeah.
And now it's like, now I can just kind of relax.
Use that word.
Which is good. So, and I would say, in Oceanside, we have a really good candidate in my district where I live right now, that's running, and her name's Michelle Gomez. So she's, doing a heck of a job, in her running. But I wouldn't run against her, you know. And I think, the mayor seat is open, and we have an opportunity to make a change, in how the council's direction is running. Yeah, I mean, that's what we need to do. We can get a majority, and we can actually start pushing some real policy.
So speaking of policy, there have been a lot of issues like in the nationwide race for president. So we always ask our guests to give us their opinion on that. How do you feel about the situation with Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and that sort of rift that was perceived initially to be sort of unity? And who's your candidate for 2020, if you can say?
So I have not really been following those campaigns as much as I probably should be, because I've just been so like intensely focused on like what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. But obviously, so it'd be really hard for me to, make it in a position. Mm-hmm. But I'd say like my values more probably closely align with, what Bernie's doing, with his policy and platform. But again, my city is different. So, there's a lot of different challenges that we have in the city that don't have anything to do with presidential politics at all. So I try to keep it out as much as possible. Yeah.
Do you believe that, we can win races without taking into account everybody's point of view? Because, for instance, there's a lot of divisiveness, right? In general right now, Democrats versus Republicans. Like, how do we come across that?
I think the first thing is you can't take it personally. And you can't get too emotional about it, at least when you're a public servant. Mm-hmm. I think, or if you're running for office, you really got to just be on point, I think if we want to make any progress, or if we want to make any difference, we do have to figure out a way to work together. We just do. Otherwise, we're just beating our heads against the wall.
Yeah.
Right. And nothing gets done.
And I think getting elected is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, if you get elected, a lot of people will just, they talk to their base, they go into their camps and, but after that, you reach across, the aisle and you say, okay, what can we come together on? What am I not willing to give on? Like, because at the end of the day, like you have to represent the people that, got you into office.
Well, you are running for mayor this time of Oceanside, but you down the road might run for Congress. So I'm going to ask you a couple foreign policy questions, because when you're here on the couch, we're foreign policy.
Oh, yeah.
So let's just pick your brain a little bit.
We'll see.
In your opinion, is Iran an enemy of the state?
Oh, man. I haven't given it much thought. Like I said, I've been concentrating on my race, but
local.
I have a lot of concerns about what's happening there, and there's just so many things that we don't really know. Yeah. Just the public probably doesn't know about what's going on really. My big concerns have been about obviously oil and contractors getting a lot of money, off of these wars and those sorts of things. But I do, I do have a military history background. So one of my things is that, you may cross a threshold where you do have to keep, your people safe. And the question is, what point do we get to that place? I don't know. It's a tough one.
I mean, because it's important for you to have an opinion, because if we do go to war, there's going to be some kids from your district that will have to go off and fight that.
And we have a very, very high military population.
Yes,
too.
you do.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's why I asked that
Yeah.
question, because, I'm saying a lot of people, it's a local city thing. Like, no, those are your children that are going to have to go and fight these conflicts where you might not have a say whether we go to war or not. But as the mayor of that city, it's important for me to know your stance on it.
Yeah, I would say, I think people, we need to avoid these conflicts if at all possible, and I think we need to, but, obviously we got to protect ourselves too. It's a balancing act, but are we protecting ourselves?
Yeah.
Are we just making some people rich?
Yeah, that seems to be more the case. Now, money-wise, where are you getting your money?
It's all grassroots.
Grassroots.
Yes.
Awesome. Grassroots donations.
Yeah, $27 donations.
It's just funny because Bernie Sanders' donation amount 4 years ago was $27. It has now gone down to about $18.
Okay.
And that just tells you
more people
how
$5.
Yeah, how much people are still getting poorer.
Yeah.
And how much the situation isn't improving. So
Well, I think that's a testament to, what you really who you really represent. You know, do you represent, you know, big giant companies, or do you represent people? Yeah. You know, and the more little donations that you have like that, the more that you represent, you know, your constituency.
We make sure there's no super chat contributions. I don't
why
think
not?
There is.
Why not big? Why not? How important is it to not take oil money for you, living in an Oceanside?
Oh, it's ridiculous. I would never take oil money. Yeah. So, I think, you know, for me, it's an old, outdated, antiquated technology that we don't really need anymore. Yeah. I know that some people in Texas get mad at me when I say that, but you know,
not running in Texas.
It is the case. You know, we need to focus on solar. We need to focus on renewables, and you know, living in a coastal city, and you know,
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we know how important it is to make sure that, you know, our environment is taken care of, our beaches are kept clean, and offshore oil, you know, drilling is crazy. I don't understand why we're doing it still. I mean, pretty close to you guys too.
Yeah. You're close to San Onofre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
so,
we have that too. We need to get rid of San Onofre.
Exactly.
Get all that nuclear waste off the beach.
Thank you, Kamala.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I was just gonna say, just so to close out, like, what exactly can people do with this upcoming election? What steps can be taken, because we still have a little bit of time.
Yeah.
To try to stop what many feel is going to be another election suppression / rigging, whatever you want to call it. People are still calling this conspiracy theories that this is happening. What can we do to fight against this when it's such a topic that so many people just brush off because they're so busy with what's going on nationally and politically that they completely do not care about this? Like, what can we do to get people's attention?
Do you feel like it's a conspiracy?
No, not at all.
Don't say the C word.
No, I'm just saying, I'm mocking because people in the Democratic establishment love to use that word.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at the data. You know, I mean, that's what I say. Let's focus on the data. So we have all this information out there that talks about, you know, millions of people getting thrown off the rolls. Orange County had something that came out just not too long ago that talked about how 10 times more people are being 10 times more provisional ballots are being given out now than they were, you know, 10 or 15 years ago. So what does that tell you? That's a statistic. You know, that statistics don't lie. These numbers came directly from the registrar. You can look it up. I think they did an audit, which was great that they did one of those. And then, you know, the other thing is I would say just focus on, you know, people telling stories.
Yeah.
Like, it would be nice. Like, I would love to see you guys or maybe somebody else come up with a show which showcases all the people that have been taken off the voter rolls so that they can talk about their story, about how they went in and they were taken off. I mean, could you imagine if you did like a panel of like 200 or 300 people in a room and just talked about their stories, the impact that would have? I mean, I would love to see something like that.
I think we do, but
make it more human.
I don't think the public just grasp the importance of it. You know, I mean, we talk about this all the time. All these issues are important here, but we always put this in the forefront because if we don't get election integrity, we have nothing. We'll never get true representation. Right. You know, this is our First Amendment rights. They're taking away our freedom of speech by not allowing the Ruben majors or anybody else get into office that we want. And it is important. So, I mean, I wish we can grab the attention, but I don't know. I mean, it's like I still don't see people have a sense of urgency when it comes to this matter. And it's disappointing. And that was important for you to get you on the show because you are that candidate. So, I mean, I would like to think it would make a difference, Ruben, but I'm just not sold because they're more worried about other things.
Yeah.
Well, you know, one of the things that helped make me feel a little bit better about it, and I'm not saying it's okay, but is that, you know, Americans still have their barbecues. They still have their get-togethers. They still, you know, do their American things. We do. Yeah. And, you know, that's not going to change, like, who we are. And at some point, you know, we will stand up and we will say, you know, we're not going to take it. And we're going to make a difference. Yeah.
And we're not going to take it anymore.
I was just thinking about that song.
It's a movie. It's a movie called Network.
But it's
and it was the guy mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. They used it in a bunch of songs and stuff.
Anyway.
By the way, Gray Walker, thank you for the super chat contribution. Gray Walker, Vet Fortosi. I can take a hint. Yeah. election integrity is important. Johnny, did you have anything else for
Yes,
Mr. Ruben?
since this is a mayor run, I just kind of want to hear your vision for Oceanside. What do you picture? What steps will you take? Like day one, what are you going to do?
So we talked about the homeless issue. The other thing is I want to give the city back to the people and, let them make more of a decision on how things go versus, these big giant developers that aren't listening to what our city wants. And I think we need to actually put our climate action plan that we have into place. We have a climate action plan. We've taken no steps to do anything about it. Community choice energy, I can think, like I said, term limits, those sorts of things, a little bit more integrity, some transparency.
What about the internet connection? Like, for instance, there were some proposals here for a wide network.
Yeah.
Oh, wouldn't that be great?
Public broadband.
Yeah.
Say municipal internet.
And it could
get
be
that going in Oceanside. That would be awesome.
It could be inexpensive. The other thing is that I'm a small business owner as well, and so I think we need to do things to support our small businesses.
Yeah.
Because they're the workhorse of American democracy right now.
Yeah.
And I don't see that being done. I just see like a bunch of buddies getting together with more buddies and doing the thing to make each other rich.
I know. Johnny, anything else before we get him out of here?
As mayor, do you have control over like contracts for like construction and stuff like that?
That's an interesting one.
Because, a lot of that, it's like, the mayor's buddies with this specific construction company.
Yeah.
So then they give them the contract instead of,
So, there's some controversy in that here because we actually had a project recently that was approved by the council where they bussed in labor from Arizona and didn't even pay the people that were in our city.
Yeah.
And so there's something in the charter that talks about no PLAs, and so I think that's something that we really need to make sure that people have good working conditions and that we need unionized labor to really to get, and we need jobs. Really, our city just needs jobs. We don't have enough jobs, and you're not going to have that when you don't have the incentive.
Yeah. Well, you got a lot of people in Oceanside who are going to benefit off that cheap labor, and they want business as usual. They don't want to be. They don't want regular like plumbers that they can use in Oceanside that are part of a union that have to get paid a certain much. Rather, they're going to bust people in from Arizona or down south to get them in there and do that work for half the price. So
and that money does not go into our local economy. We've made a couple of faux pas over the years. There was a car dealership that could have brought in a lot of sales tax revenue to our city, and we didn't, and so now we're kind of reaping the negative consequences of that. I would also say we've had some hotels go up recently, and right there next to the beachfront, and people are not happy about that. But some of these hotels are getting giant tax breaks for, multiple years, So it's like, why are we giving those tax breaks to them when, we need more things for our community? And that's what it's all about, is the community.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get them out of here.
All right. Where can we find you?
Yeah. Tell us, Ruben. Give us your last pitch, and tell us where we can, hook you up with a couple bucks. We need to get a couple bucks.
We could definitely use your support. So if you go to rubenmajor.com, take a look at the website, and any contributions that you can give, they're going to a good cause. We're doing this for our community. We're doing this to make a better place, and get the messaging out.
Yeah, Ruben Major there, fighting for election integrity. Thank you so much for joining us, Ruben.
Thank you, sir.
so much, Ruben.
For Pasta Jardula,
and Fiorella,
Johnny Sue on the ones and twos, and Ruben Major in studio today.
CONVO out. We'll be right back.
That's right, with Alwada Vasquez.